going to try to take advantage of my son while he's here. Especially, he did Masech the Gittin this year, so it's easy for him. It's 70-something pages, so you always have to pass it. Not 70, 90. 90 pages. 90 pages. Okay. So I believe Levi left off by V'amar Abaya. But it's on page Lamed Dalet Amud Beis 34a. 34a. It's about halfway down, and it's right after where Rav Sheshis was forcing someone to get a get. Right after that piece. V'amar Abaya. So we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In the chus of our learning, we should have the basic English immediately. What happened before here, just to get back into this discussion, is that a person can be mevatel, can nullify the agency of the get. If he sends a get with a messenger, he can then nullify it. He says, I'm taking it back. And he can also actually nullify an actual get, like remove the instructions from the get. But the main, we usually just see this by the agency. That's where we've been seeing it. Whatever the case is, let's say he doesn't actually nullify the get, the agency directly. He just shows that he really isn't interested in it anymore. So the case that we had was when someone sent a get to his wife, but with an agent, and then when he comes to her, she's busy. Her hands, she can't take it because she's busy weaving. So she says, "Come back tomorrow." So
and she knows what they're there for. Or does it
yeah, he tells her, "Here's your get." She says, "I'm busy now. Come back tomorrow." So the fellow went back to the husband and said that your wife said I should come back tomorrow. She's too busy. So he said, "Oh, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem." Basically, he didn't want to divorce her. But he didn't say that he's nullifying the agency. So Abaya says the agency is still on. It's all good. Could be. It could be.
Kind of like
The delay.
Yeah.
And Rava says no, the agency is nullified. So what we call this is gilei dai to begittin. When a person reveals what his intention is, but he doesn't say it outright. According to Abaya, that's nothing, and according to Rava, that's very significant. Just the intention itself. So Machlekas Abaya and Rava, in intention, that's not said outright. What happens over here? This is the Rebbe's father's discussion about you go like Abaya. We only go like Abaya in 6 cases. Those 6 cases that we go like Abaya are all connected. Yes, this discussion about this. That it's just like the case of Yir Shlei Midas. Remember that? Where someone loses an item, but he doesn't know that he lost it. But had he known that he lost it, he would have given up hope of ever finding it. So, in other words, there's a thought there that hasn't been revealed. It's there, but it hasn't been revealed. And here, a similar type of thing. There's a thought there. He wants to nullify the get, but he hasn't said it yet. He's only Gili Das. In both of these cases, and there's another 4 of them, the 6 altogether, you have the same sort of concept where Abaya says that that's not considered a real expression. It's not considered expressed yet. Well, we had one case where Rava says his source was a case of Rav Sheshis, and today we say V'amar Abaya, Mina Aminallah. How do I know that this unexpressed bittul is considered nothing? Says the Rav Yehuda Ashkali Gita Lachasni the Rav Yirmiyah Bira. Rav Yehuda was forcing the son-in-law of Rav Yirmiyah Bira to give a get. Ubatle. Then he nullified that agency. Tana Ashkale Ubatle. Tana means I think they repeated it. They repeated it. Is that what it says? Does Tana say repeated? Or
Again.
They repeated it again and they extracted it again, and he nullified the agency again. But then afterwards, they took it by force. How do they take it by force? They tell him, if you don't give your wife a get, we're going to beat you. So he says, okay. And he says to the witnesses, Esivu, I mean, give it. Oh, no, place. Esivu means place. Amalu Lasadi, this is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda tells the witnesses that are meant to go and deliver the get, Esivu kari ba'inaichu. Place a curry is a pumpkin or a squash. Yeah. Put a squash in your ear, uksubala, and write the get for her. In other words, basically, don't let him give you any instruction. Don't let him tell you that he's nullifying the agency. Like, put on headphones. That's it. You can't hear him anymore. That means you're blocking him from nullifying it. He has to tell you to nullify it, right? Ksubala and ksubale, and write the get for him. Okay, so this is Abaya's continuing from that story of Rabbi Yehuda. It says, and if intention is enough, which means if he wants to nullify the get, all you have to do is see that he wanted to nullify it, and that's already nullified. You don't need the full expression of a nullification. But they see that he's running after them to stop them. He's screaming.
Can you make a kal b'chomer with an eder and writing a get and having that attention? Like, just because someone regrets what they did doesn't mean that they automatically stop.
Right. So the thing is that someone would regret giving the get. So then it's too late. Here the question is where he gives instructions to give the get, and before it's given, he regrets. Then the question is, when he shows that regret, is he nullifying it, or does he have to actually nullify it? Before it's given. Yeah. He wrote it because he thought this would be a good thing. And then there was a pause in being written and delivered, and he says, I don't know if I really want this. Gets cold feet. She made delicious dinner, right?
The circumstances that the agent got to her and told her about the get, and now she's aware of it. It wasn't delivered to her, but she's aware. So she gets that change.
No. The only thing that changes is if she receives it. Once she receives it, then she's divorced. Or maybe she wants it. Maybe she does want to be divorced.
It seems there's just special allowances are made for somebody who doesn't want to give a get, and we force him to. We beat him up. I mean, where else do you see that in the Torah? We beat somebody up and say that's his free will.
Right. The only other place where you have that is, I think there was a Gemara in Ksubas where we said that if someone doesn't want to fulfill a mitzvah say, they're allowed to beat him until he does it. Like he doesn't want to build a sukkah or shake a lulav, they're allowed to be put on tefillin. Says they're allowed to beat him to do that. And the concept is, well, over here the concept is that a get has to be given willingly, but they can force him to give it willingly. He says, okay, fine, okay, stop hitting me and I'm going to give it. So then they forced him to say that he wants to. So that's acceptable. The Rambam has
so
an explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same thing here. So we know that he wants to, right? Like that's what basically we're saying, right? We know that he wants to, whether it looks like that way or not.
That's interesting.
Aspect of it,
that's
right?
That's interesting what you're saying. You're saying, well, the Gilei Daita Begita is actually when he's trying to nullify the get, and it's against what we know that he really wants to. So there's something.
Really wants to.
What he really wants to. What he really wants to is to give his wife a get. The best thing is forcing him to give a get. At least that's in one of these cases. And then he's deciding that he doesn't want to. Anyway, he's running after the witnesses to tell them that they should stop it. I'm taking back the agency. They covered their ears with pumpkins. They put on a pumpkin over their ears. So if Gili Daita Begita is something, so then why is it considered a good get? You see clearly that he doesn't want it. So obviously Gilei Dait, there's nothing that's a biased opinion. Rava says, Haida Karoit Basrayu. How do you know? They don't really know. It's not a real Gilei Das. Now, Rava holds that a Gilei Das is a Gilei Das is revealing intention. Rava says that the fact that he's running after them and he's shouting and he's trying to tell them something, that doesn't mean that he's trying to nullify. Really, you know what he's doing? He says, Rat Basrai Damalu, he's trying to tell them, Isher Havule, hi, hurry, give it to her quickly. So that I should get my pain finished.
Yeah, we don't know what he's saying exactly.
Right, we don't know what he's saying. Now, what the pain that he has over here is either, Rashi says the pain is, no, did I see it in Rashi?
It says, in order to end the pain of that man.
End of the pain of that man.
My pain that I'm divorcing.
Oh, so in the Quran, he says the pain is that he's divorcing his wife. He didn't want to divorce her, and now it's painful for him. So he says, just get it over with quickly. But I don't think that's the pshat. I think the pshat is that they were forcing him they were beating him, and he says, hurry quickly because I don't want them to beat me. So give it to her quickly. I want this pain to be over. Not the pain of emotional pain, the pain of the physical pain. That's what anyway. Right. That's he's motivating. That's what he's running. He's running after them to tell them to do it quickly. Okay. So Rabbi says there's no Gilei Das. We don't know what he wanted. Amar Abaya. Abaya says, Mina. How do I know that Gilei Das is nothing? That revealing intention without actually explicitly saying that he wants to nullify the guy. How do we know that that's nothing? There was someone that said to these messengers, if I don't show up in 30 days, the get should be effective. Asa, he came, Upaski Mabra, we had this Gemara before, but before it was not where he says to witnesses, before it was when he said to the woman, I think. The stipulation, yeah.
So when he goes out to fight.
Well, it doesn't, not necessarily. He went on a trip. He says, if I don't return, then this should be your get. If I don't return within 30 days. Also, he comes back to Paski Mabra, but he can't get over the ferry. The ferry wasn't there. The bridge was up. He can't get across. Amalahu, and he says to them, he says, Chazudasai, see? He yells from across the river. He says, see that I'm here. See that I'm here. V'amar Shmuel, and Shmuel said, Leishmi Masya, you're not here. Okay. Clearly had Gilei Das.
What does here mean?
What is here? But he clearly shows intention that he's not interested in the get. According to Abaya, it's amazing proof. Gilei Das is nothing. Shmuel says that the get is a valid get, even though he's clearly showing that he doesn't want it.
So this is a case against, well, it's actually.
It's a support of Abaya.
Yeah.
Support of Abaya.
Yeah.
Because Abaya says that the revealing intention without nullifying it is nothing. Rava, what could Rava say to such a good proof? Rava says like this: Atu hasam levatuli gita bay. Was he shouting from across the river, I'm nullifying the agency? Hasam lekimi tanaka bay, or maybe nullifying the get. Over there, he wasn't nullifying the get. Over there, he was establishing the stipulation. In other words, he took the wrong argument. If he would have made the argument that if he would have made the protest that I'm nullifying the agency, then fine. But that wasn't his intention. What he was trying to do was trying to say that him fulfilling the stipulation. And that if he took the wrong argument, then he lost it. Because we don't accept that. He really wasn't there. We don't accept the fact that external that there's certain extenuating circumstances didn't allow him to cross the river, that it should be as if he crossed the river. We don't accept that. So, but because he took that argument, so then we follow through with that, and that doesn't fly. If he would have taken the other argument, Rava says, then yes, it would have worked. He could have shouted across the river, I want to nullify the get. Well, he could have nullified it, but he says he could have even just been Megala Das. That I don't want it. I don't want the get.
So according to
It's interesting.
Rava, it's fine.
According to Rava, the get over here is still good because he didn't take the right argument. The interesting thing is that it shouldn't really matter according to Rava because Gili Das, the fact that he wants the Tanai to be fulfilled shows that he doesn't want the get. That itself should be a Gili Das.
So would Shmuel accept the argument that he's nullifying his agency?
He didn't nullify the agency. That's why the get is considered a good get.
He doesn't accept that he can nullify anything at that point.
Well, maybe he could have, but he didn't. Yeah, it's just not telling that to us. Okay, Hudamalo, there was someone that said, Ilay Nasivna Gita. This was a prolonged engagement where someone is betrothed to a woman, and probably she's telling him like, how long is this going to go on for? So he says, okay, I'm going to let you free. You can, I'm going to divorce you. Betrothal requires a divorce as well. I'm going to divorce you if I don't end up marrying you within 30 days. So he puts on himself a 30-day schedule where if he doesn't get married within 30 days, then they're divorced. Yeah, in the secular world, they say that engagement is just buying time. That's what they talk about it. So anyway, she's like, she's finished, right? It's enough is enough. Either marry me or I want to go. So he says, okay, fine. So
If he's getting ready for the wedding. Saving his money.
right, that's probably what he's doing. He's saving money. Anyway, so kimata plus yaimen, when the 30 days comes, amalahu, he says to them, tarechna, I've been trying so hard. I've been working. I put together. I have half the money. I'm trying to, the whole all this stuff. Okay. So what should be concerned about? Imisham ansa. See, the fact is he gave her a get. And he didn't marry her within 30 days. Are you concerned that maybe extenuating circumstances stopped him from fulfilling the stipulation of marrying her, and therefore we should count it as if he married her because you can't hold it against him that he didn't marry her it wasn't his fault. He tried so hard. If you're going to say it's an inus, there's extenuating circumstances. An inus begittin. A person can't claim a claim of extenuating circumstances by a get, and it should be considered not a get because of that. That doesn't work. That's what we had before. Ein inus begittin. Imishum gili daita begittin. If it's because we see clearly that he doesn't want the get because he was trying so hard to make the marriage. Look at the Abaye of Rava. That's machlekes Abaye and Rava. Okay. Sounds like the Gemara knows the answer to the machlekes Abaye and Rava. What would the answer be? The answer is, we're going to see soon, the answer is that we go like Abaye. If we go like Abaye, then that would mean that the gili dai to be get, there's nothing. It means the get is still a good get. So whichever way you look at this, if you want to claim inus, that's not a good claim. The get's a good get. If you want to claim gili daita begita, that's not a good claim either. We're going to go like Abaye. Now Rava said.
Rava also says that bold divorce is not the get is not void as well. Right?
Rava said that what the person was trying to do in the last case when he was running and he couldn't reach couldn't cross the river, Rava said that it wasn't a gili das, that was just he was trying to fulfill the stipulation, and we didn't accept that. So Rava would probably say the same thing here. Rava would say that the person was trying to fulfill the stipulation. So the Tosfos mentions this. According to Rava, actually what Tosfos says is that Rava would agree. Whether you go like Abaye or like Rava, it's interesting in this case. The halacha would be that the get is a valid get. According to Abaye, it would be a valid get because it was only revealed. It was only revealed his intention, but he didn't actually nullify the get. And according to Rava, he was trying to fulfill the stipulation to nullify the get, but that didn't work. He didn't actually nullify the get, because either way, the get would be a valid get.
Can he marry her again?
If he's not a Kohen, he could marry her. The question is if she's going to agree. She's been taken advantage of.
She bought her dress and everything.
She bought her dress, right? There was a person that said, if I don't marry you by other. Yeah.
Heard a little story, I guess, from Rebbe, and it's about, I guess, a couple they wanted to have children, whatever, and they waited 10 years or something. So he decided to divorce her. Anyway, like a month or two later, he found out that she was pregnant. He was a Kohen, so he had to be married. So someone told him to go talk to the Rebbe about it. Asked the person, Rebbe said, like, oh, go speak to your mother. So he spoke to his mother and said, well, you're actually not a Kohen. He adopted you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great story. So, yeah, that's a miracle. If I don't marry you by Rosh Chodesh Adar, then this get should be valid. When Rosh Chodesh Adar comes, Amalahu, he says to them, another Rosh Yachad Nisan Amari. I meant Rosh Chodesh Nisan, not Rosh Chodesh Adar. So the get shouldn't be a good get. Gemara says, what are you concerned about? If it's because of a ninus, in other words, what would the ninus be here? Was it a misunderstanding? What's going on? I guess it means that he was trying to get everything ready and he wasn't able to get it ready by then. If you want to say that he was doing his best and it's extenuating circumstance, so that's not an excuse. The get is going to eininus begittin, the get's still going to be a good get. Imishum gili daita, if you want to say that it's because of he revealed his intention, so plug to the Abai of Rava. That's the machlekes you've been telling me the whole page was all about. Machlekes Abai and Rava regarding if someone reveals his intention but doesn't actually nullify the agency. Okay.
Here's interesting that it says, like, if he realizes before they and he makes a correction that it's about. So would that be the same?
He makes a new stipulation. You can make a new stipulation in front of the Bestin before the time, yeah. Now the Gemara says the Hilchas Kenachman. The halacha is like Rav Nachman. Well, what did Rav Nachman say? Nachman said before a bunch of things. One of them was that you can nullify a get in front of two people. Now, actually, you're really only supposed to nullify the get in front of the agent. But if you would nullify the get in front of two people, that would be also good. Originally, before the Besdin came in, before Rabbi Gamliel came and instituted that you're not allowed to do that, how many people did you need to nullify it in front of in that original time, in the early times before the Rabbi Gamliel came and instituted that? Rabbi Nachman said 2 people. That was enough. And the other opinion was Rabbi Sheshes said you needed 3 people. Gemara says, Hilchasa Kenachman, you only need 2 people to nullify the get. Hilchasa Kenachman. Allah Chazak Rabbi Nachman about something else. Got a machlekes between Rav Yosef and Rava in the name of Rav Nachman regarding if we paskin like Rebbe or like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Rav Yosef said we paskin like Rebbe in one case, we paskin like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel in the other case. And Rava says in the name of Rav Nachman we paskin like Rebbe in both cases. What were the 2 cases? If someone went against the takana of Rav Gamliel and nullified a get without the agent being there, would the get actually be nullified? And Rav Shimon ben Gamliel said no, it's not. And Rebbe said it is. And Rav Nachman says Allah is like Rebbe. Then there was another machlekes. If you can nullify one agent in front without the other agent yet. They don't know about it. They don't know that the agency was nullified and it continued. You weren't allowed to do that, but if you did it, what would it be? What would Allah be?
Well, it's a sakana because
Right.
then,
So you might end up getting married. But so that's what Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, that since it was instituted, so we make it ineffective. According to Rebbe, we said we only forbade you from doing that, but if you do it, it's still effective. Which
so like a diabet.
yeah, but the Evid, you create a problem. That's what that's what Rebbe said. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says no, even with the Evid, it's no problem. Now we had a whole discussion. How did the rabbis able to do that, to take away something that midaraisa was? Anyway, we're going to pass in here like Rebbe. Another case of passing like Rebbe is that Rebbe said that if there were two witnesses, can you nullify one witness without the other one there? Rebbe said yes. Two agents,
Yeah.
one without the other one there. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said you need both of them there. Passing like Rebbe that you can nullify one without the other. Bilchasa kenachmeni. And the halacha is also like Nachmeni. Nachmeni is not Rav Nachman. Nachmeni is Abaya, because Abaya was raised in the house of Rabba bar Nachmeni, and he didn't want to call him by his father's name, so he called him Abaya. His real name was oh, actually, that's one pshat, that he called him Abai because he didn't want to say his father's name. Other pshat is that he called him by his father's name. Yeah, what do they say over there? Okay, here it says, Rashi explains that Rabbah, who raised Abaya, was his uncle, would call Abaya Nachmeni after his own father. However, according to the Goinim, Abaya's original name was Nachmeni, as he was named after his grandfather. Rabbah, who raised him, did not want to call him by the same name as his father, as the halacha is that if one's father has an unusual name, it is prohibited to call others by their name. For this reason, and out of affection, he was called Abaya, which means father. The nickname stuck with him, though there are instances, for example, Gemara here, where he is called by his true name. Yeah, I saw a shot somewhere that Abaya is an Aramaic word for Nachmeni. And it's actually like an English name, like Yitzchak Isaac. Like those names where you have a Yiddish and a Hebrew name. Zevolf, right? Those are a Hebrew with the translation. So it would be Abaya and Nachmeni would be the same name. That's why I find it interesting that the name Menachem of, according to that interpretation, is really the same thing. Menachem of, the month of is also called Menachem of. But that would be like a Yitzchak Isaac, according to this. Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says that that he calls him Nachmeni after his father, not because of a translation. Okay. Anyway, there's 6 cases in Shas where we go like Abaya, and all other cases we go like Rava. There must be hundreds of machlekes where Rava always wins, and only 6 we go like Abaya. And this is one of them. The acronym is Yal Kagam, and the Gimel of Kagam is Gili Daita B'Gittin. Yal, the Yud is Yerushalmi. The Ayin is Eid Zaymim Lemafreya. That's a Gemara in Kedushin, I think. Maybe in Makkas. Eid Zaymim Lemafreya. Then there's Lechi Yamin Melev was a Gemara in Erevin that we learned. Kuf is Kedushin Shleinim Srulabiyah. That's a Gemara Kedushin. And Gimel is Gili Daita B'Gittin. And I forget what the Mem is. The last one, I forget what the last one is. I think there was a machlekes somewhere about something in Nida. I forget what it was. About a machlekes about something about a zava or something. There was another machlekes there. Okay, we have a new Mishnah. Originally, if someone moved from one place to another, and they were writing a get, so they would use the name that they have in the new place and the way the get's being written. They would use her name where the get's being written. And they would use the name of the city where it was written and the name of where she is. Iskin Rabbi Gamliel Azakin, she Yekaisev from Gamliel Azakin instituted. That's why we have this Mishnah. Well, it is Gittin, but we're discussing here like different institutions of Rabbi Gamliel or other institutions. That Rabbi Gamliel instituted said they should write Ish Pliny v'chol shum sheyesh like this fellow and any name that he has. In other words, it's machlekes here in Tosfos. If when they say any name that he has, does that mean that they write the words any name that he has, which means any other name, or do they actually write the other names? The Rav Hai Gaon, I'm not sure if it's Rav Hai Gaon or Halachas Gedolos. It must be the Halachas Gedolos. In the Halachas Gedolos, it's not the Rav Hai Gaon, that's Rav Netrani Gaon, I think. Maybe they don't. Yeah. Shiltis is Rav Achoy. I'm not sure who wrote the Halachas Gedolos. In the Halachas Gedolos, it says that they should write those words and any other name that he has. And Rabbi Tam says no, that they would actually write the other name. Yeah. If they know the other name. And why should they? How does it go? Ish plainis v'chol shem sheyesh la. Isha plainis v'chol shem sheyesh la. Any name that they have, if they took an island because of, so that they don't think it's someone else, so to fix the world. And someone could come later and say that it wasn't the real person, it wasn't the right name, it wasn't. So they have to fill in everything to make sure that nothing happens later that could affect the validity of the get. Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Sholchulei b'nei Medina Sayam l'Rabbi Gamliel, that the people from overseas sent a message to Rabbi Gamliel. They said, B'nei Adam Abayim Misham Lakan, people that come from there to here, Shema Yosef. His name is Yosef. V'karim leYochanan, but over here they call him Yochanan. Yochanan v'karim leYosef. Yochanan, and they call him Yosef. Eich megarshin nishisem. How does they divorce the wives? Like, what should you write in the get? Okay. Yeah, it's funny, like what exactly happened over there with Yosef and Yochanan? Like, why did they switch the name as they go? They would have said like an English name, would have understood what's happening. But Yosef and Yochanan, Joe or John, right? Well, Amad Rabbi Gamliel v'Yeskin, Rabbi Gamliel stood up and he instituted that they should write so and so, his actual name, Yosef, whatever, Yochanan, the name that he has now, and any other name that they call him by, which means those previous names that he was called by in other places. Isha Plainus, they say the name of the woman, and any other name that she has, Meitik and Olam, that we should not have any trouble later. Amar Ravashi says, Vuda Achsek betray Shmei. That's only if we know that he has two names. Otherwise, if we don't know that he has two names, and then later on we find out that he has two names, it's fine. It's only we know that we call him this name, and we know that he has another name somehow. We know that even though he's not using it, but we know that. So we're going to mention that name. But if we don't know that he has that other name, we're just fine.
What was the naming convention back then? Like it was like Bob, son of so and so in this city. Is that?
I think so. I don't know if the city was part of it. Yeah, I think they just had, because it wasn't a a global
your name and then your father.
Yeah, just the person's name and his father's name. Yeah.
They had something about like their place of birth or something.
Yeah, when people traveled more when the train, I think they started to give people city names as well. Actually, it's not only with the train. They would, whenever someone traveled from one place to another, he would get the name of the city.
And then last names much later.
Yeah. Yeah, but when they wanted to, Chaim Grada was, they called him Chaim Vilna or something. Came from Vilna, so they called him, because when you go to another city, they would call you where they
Well,
come
when
from.
they established the railroads, that's when they started putting the time zone.
That was it. Then they had the time of the universal, right? Okay. When someone's name is Ashkenazi, that means that he wasn't living in the Ashkenaz land. He moved from an Ashkenaz land to a Sephardic land, and they gave him the name Ashkenazi, obviously, right? His name was Yerushalmi. That's because he moved out of Yerushalayim and he moved somewhere else. They called him Yerushalmi. It's only when they moved that they got that name. Otherwise, the whole city has the same name. It doesn't work. Okay. Avudas Chazik betrays me. Amalei Rabbi Abba or Ravashi. Rabbi says to Ravashi, Rabbi Mari. I'm not familiar with Rabbi Mari. Is he referring to Rabbi Yochanan when he says Rabbi Mari, teacher, my master, or is that someone's actual name? That can't be Rabbi Yochanan, because if Rabbi is talking to Ravashi, then he never saw Rabbi Yochanan. Must be someone else. Rabbi Mari and Rabbi Lazar kaimi kavasa. Rabbi Mari and Rabbi Lazar, they hold like you. That the only time this would be significant that you have to write that there is another name. That's only if the person tells us that there's another name, or we know that there's another name. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Tani Kavasei de Ravashi. Story, there was a brisa that supports Ravashi. Someone had two wives. Achas b'Yehuda v'achas b'Galil. One lived in Yehuda, one lived in Galil. I guess he would travel. He had two wives. And he had two names. Echad b'Yehuda v'echad b'Galil. And Yehuda had one name. And in Galil, he had another name. The Gar says just they should be Yehuda b'Shmei should be Yehuda. They should be Galil b'Shmei should be Galil. He used his Yehuda name for the divorcing his Yehuda wife, and he used his Galil name for his Galil divorce his Galil wife. Ina Megresha Shagir says just to be Yehuda b'Shmei should be Yehuda v'Shem the Galil imai. He needs both names for both divorces. Which one is the main one? Well, the name of that place would be the main one, but you have to say, and also the other name. Let's say he goes to a third place. Once over there, he only needs to use one name. Why in someone else do you only need one name? And over here, if you go to the other place, you need both names. Must be in Yehuda, we know him by his name of Yehuda, but we also know that he has another name that he doesn't go by. And in Galil, we know him by his name of Galil, but we know he has another name that he doesn't go by. But in the third place, we only knew him by one name. We didn't know about the other place. We didn't know about the other name. Okay, so obviously Ravashi is right. It's a proof to Ravashi that if only when he's a chazik, when it's assumed or established that he has a second name, that's when you have to use it. Miriam Uporta Sarah. It was a woman. Her name was Miriam. Everyone called her Miriam, but a few people. Porta is Paquito. Means a few, a little bit. Porta. Some people called her Sarah. Amri Nardai. They said Nardai. Miriam v'cholshem sheishla v'lei Sarah v'cholshem sheishla. The main name is the main one. That's the one that you write first, and then afterwards you write, and also those other names that they have. Okay. So that's the discussion. If they do, if you write that, if you're supposed to write that phrase, or if and any other name, or if they write actually the other name. Yeah. So Rabbeinu Tam had a problem with writing and any other name. He says because maybe someone doesn't have any other names, and they're going to think that this is not the right person. So,
back then they had polygamy and everything. Can you write down multiple spouses in one get?
No. Each one needs their own. Each one needs their own get. It has to be given into her hands, and it has to be hers. Maybe they could do that if they would write. They would hand it back and then give it to the next one. I'm not sure. I haven't learned any gemaras about that. Yonatan is asking if you can write multiple wives in one get to divorce. You write to her a bunch of names of women, and then you just keep taking it back, ask for it back, and divorce the next one. It has to be his. The get has to be his, and it has to become hers. So it's a little complication there with ownership, but
In modern times, how are names handled in the get?
in modern times they write every name that they know of, and then they add in v'chol shum, v'chanicha, the is,
Are last names used?
No last names. No last names, but they do add it in like the halachas kedelos. They write, they go like Rabbeinu Tam to write in the other names, and they write they go like the halachas kedelos as well to after all those other names they add in any other name that they have.
So if a person has a Hebrew, a woman has a Hebrew name and an English name.
Yeah. They'll actually use the English name first. Actually, I'm not sure about that. An English name and a Hebrew name, I'm not sure. But the main name always goes first. The main name.
Nicknames also.
The nicknames also get it. Yeah, I remember some Gittin that we did. The Mystery Bob, the Mystery William, they put all those things in. The Mystery Bobby, Bill, the Bill, Bob, William, and all of those. We had like you have to add them all in. Okay. Okay, new Mishnah. If a widow wants to get her ksuba from the orphans, she can only do that if she makes a vow that she hasn't received any part of her ksuba. Otherwise, orphans don't know what the father gave, so she has to take a vow that she didn't receive anything, and then she could collect. Nimnu milashpia, but then they stopped. They don't want to take a vow. They don't want to take that oath. It's not a vow; it's an oath. They want to take the oath. Hiskin Ram Gamliel Hazakin, Ram Gamliel Hazakin instituted Shetei Neideres Li Yisaimim Kol Mashir Tzubagavik Subasa. Instead of taking an oath, she can take a vow of something should be forbidden to her. Any type of food or any sustenance from them or whatever it is, and that was considered enough. She doesn't take an oath that she hasn't received anything, but she takes a vow forbidding on herself something, and that would be enough. She says, if I've received anything from the ksuba, any payment so far, so then this and this should be forbidden to me. She's not vowing that she's not taking an oath that she hasn't received anything. She's taking a totally side type of oath that if she has received part of the ksuba, then this should be forbidden, and that was enough that the orphans, the heirs, should pay back the ksuba. Another institution was that witnesses sign on the debt on the get because of tikkun olam. Really, they don't need to sign on the get; they just have to see it being delivered. The Hillel Hiskin principle of tikkun olam, and Hillel instituted a principle which is a way of collecting money even after the Shemitah is passed. The Shemitah absolves all the debts. This was Hillel instituted in order so that people should still lend money. Gemara says like this: My year Yalmana, why are you telling me that a widow can't collect from orphans? No one can collect from orphans. We have established a boli parim. Anyone that wants to collect from the orphans, he has to take a vow. You're telling me only a widow has to take a vow when she's collecting the ksuba. Gemara says no. Almana tzrichalei has to tell me about the almana salkadait chamina. Could have been in your mind to say mishum china because of chen. They wanted her to be graceful now, so that people should want to marry her. She's a widow. What they would do is they would want to make it easier on her so that she should be able to collect her ksuba. And akila rabbanan gaba. The rabbis were lenient to Kamash Malan. We say that no, same law. We don't just because we want her for people to want to marry her. That's not a good enough reason that we should just give her money without the regular vows and everything that requires. They stopped taking vows. My time, why they stopped taking vows? If you say it's like Rav Kana said, Rav Kana says, and some say that it was Rav Yudah, the name of Rav Maisabad the Mechad was a story of a person Mishnei B'Tzeiris during the famine. He deposited a golden coin by this widow. She placed the coin, she had to hide it, she placed it in a bucket of flour. She forgot about it. It ended up getting baked into the bread. And she gave it to a poor person. Okay. Some days went by. The owner of the coin came. Vamala, Haveli Dinari, give me my coin back. She said to him, Yena Sam Amavis, basically, she says, I don't know where it is, but I'm telling you, I didn't use it. If I had any benefit from that dinar, then one of the children should pass away.
Whoa.
Well, Amru, she was sure she didn't use it. It wasn't even a few days. One of her children died. When the sages heard this, Amru, if that happens to someone that swears like this in truth, for sure, this is a dangerous game. Don't play this. We should have to stop this. If someone does it in truth, this is what happens. Someone that does it for false, for sure, it's dangerous. My time, what's the reason why she got punished? She didn't use it. She didn't have any benefit from it. The Gemara says no, she did have benefit. She didn't have to fill that part of the bread up with flour because the dinar was there. So she benefited from the space in the bread where that took up that space in the bread. So then so why do you say that she swore truthfully? Then it wasn't truth. It says as like someone that swore. It's as if she swore truthfully. In other words, she intended to swear truthfully. That was her intention. Now, if the whole reason why people stopped swearing was because of this, then why'd we say that only a widow, we don't make them swear, we just make them take a vow? We should do this for anyone, even someone that's divorced, not just a widow that wants to collect the ksuba. Gemara says, Almana Amar Rab Zera Mishmul Leishanu El Almana. I'm sorry. Alama Amar Rab Zera Mishmul Leishanu El Almana Vel Gerusha Mashpinaisa. Why'd we say Rab Zera says name of Shmuel that we only made this institution for the widow, but not for a divorcee? Gemara says Almana Shani the Bihana the Katarcha Kamedi Asmi Asilururi Hatera. See, the widow is giving so much to the orphans. She doesn't have the estate, but she's always busy raising the orphans. She's part of the family, even though the husband passed away, but she's doing so much. So when she says that I haven't taken anything from the ksuba, she may really have taken, but because she's always giving to the orphans, maybe she's going to be lenient about what she took and say that, well, they owe it to me anyway because of this and that, because I'm always there. So therefore, we're concerned that she may take that actual oath that she hasn't taken anything, even though that wouldn't be accurate. But by a divorcee, she would never find any leniency in her mind to say that I'm doing so much for them, and therefore it's not a problem for me to swear about this because she wasn't part of the family. She's out. They took in a new they have a stepmother or whatever.
Does that apply even if she's a first wife or
Even like the widow?
no, like a divorcee?
By the divorcee? No, divorcee, it doesn't matter. Divorcee, she wouldn't have any sort of leniency in her mind to be able to say that I'm doing so much for the children, therefore I should, because she leaves the family, and the father and his estate is independent from her. Okay, let's leave it over here. Have a good day, everyone.